Hi, Amy. Thanks so much for joining us on Britain's Space Stories podcast.
Hi.
Hi. So let's begin with where you're based and who's in your family.
So I'm based in Newcastle. There's myself, my husband Andrew, and my little boy Finn.
Oh, amazing. And what's your profession apart from taking care of yourself and your family?
So I work for an airline. It's a kind of complaints, but I work in the complaints department for an airline.
Wonderful, wonderful. Right, and let's get straight into it. Was your pregnancy something that you'd planned and thought about, or was it something that just came about?
No, we'd planned it. It happened a lot quicker than we thought because we waited until we got married in the August, and then by the September I was pregnant. So
Wow.
it happened quicker, so it was a little bit of a surprise, but it was something that was definitely planned.
Oh, great, great. And how did you feel when you found out you were pregnant?
Scared.
Yeah.
Instantly scared. I remember being a little bit happy, but if anything, I was definitely more on the nervous side because I didn't expect it to happen so quickly. And obviously, it's just, things are going to be a big change, so
Yeah.
it's a bit daunting.
Yeah, definitely. Right, and how was the pregnancy for you overall?
It was absolutely fine. I had no problems at all. Maybe the first 14 weeks or so, I had a bit of morning sickness, but it was never to the point where it was horrendous. But after that, everything, I had no problems, to be honest. So I was quite lucky.
Great. And had you thought about how and where you'd like to birth?
Yeah, so I always wanted to give birth at the RVI. So I knew that was going to be where I wanted. And what I wanted, I wasn't really that bothered. I kind of didn't want to plan anything birth-wise because I know things can change so quickly, and obviously it's not really something that you have any control over. So I kind of just didn't bother with a birthing plan or having any ideas on what I definitely wanted.
Yeah. And when you were pregnant, how do you feel looking back on it now? How do you feel about the support you received from your midwives and your caregivers?
Yeah, it was good. Because obviously during the middle of it all, the pandemic hit. So
yeah.
a lot of things changed when that happened. So the antenatal appointments and stuff all happened. Fortunately, we were lucky enough to have breast scans where my partner was able to attend. But other than that, the support I thought was quite good, considering no one really knew what to actually do and what the situation was going to be like. So I can't really fault them, and they were really good.
Exactly. All right. And now going straight into it, how did your labour begin and progress?
So my waters broke on the Tuesday night. Went into MEU to go and get checked, and they confirmed that they had broken. They gave us I think it was until 2:00 the next day to progress naturally, before having to come in to get induced. Obviously for me it didn't progress naturally, so I had to go in at 2:00 to get induced, and then it took another 2 days. Well, I went in on the Wednesday to get induced, and then he was born on the Thursday afternoon at about 4. So it was a nice long one.
Yeah. And how was the support you received within, from induction all the way to birth?
Really good. Because obviously you were alone. You couldn't have any birthing partners at that point. I think it might have changed a little bit now, but at the time I wasn't allowed Andrew there or anyone. So the midwives, they were very conscious enough and very there all of the time. If you needed anything, or they were constantly coming around to check in and make sure that you were okay. So they were really good. It made you feel a bit less lonely, shall I say.
Yeah. And how, if you look back on it now, how do you feel about the birth that you had?
It wasn't too bad. I never wanted to be induced. I know I said I wasn't that I didn't have a birthing plan, but I never wanted the idea, or I didn't like the idea of an induction.
Yeah.
Ideally, I wouldn't want to go through it again, just because it is quite a long process. But
Yeah.
other than that, it was fine. To be fair, I know there's a lot worse labours, so I can't really complain.
Right. And after you'd given birth, how were the first few hours when you were together with Finn?
Good. I can't really remember much, because I definitely took all of the drugs that they gave us.
Yeah.
So it was all a bit of a blur, but I was definitely on a high, and it was just a very surreal experience. Like, just being handed this baby, and you weren't kind of left to your own devices, but they kind of just let you in, sit around, and they carried on around you and everything like that. And it was a very daunting, but you do feel this overwhelming bit of love. I know some people mightn't, and at first it was a bit of a shock when they did put him on us, but then after that you just kind of just find yourself staring at them all the time, and yeah, it was lovely. It was really nice.
Yeah. And how was feeding? Did you think about what you wanted for feeding?
Yeah, I always wanted to breastfeed. Again, I didn't want to put pressure on myself. I always said that I'll try it, and if it doesn't work or it doesn't go right, then obviously I've given it the shot. It didn't work as well when we first tried. He latched on when he was first born, but after that he kind of point blank refused to latch on again. So it made it quite stressful, and I was quite upset after that, because I'd kind of got it in my head that I didn't want to bother about it or be bothered about it. But then when it came down to it and he wasn't latching, I got a bit upset, so I had to stay in hospital an extra day to kind of see if he would feed from me. And luckily he did eventually feed, and he was non-stop after that. But it was very long, but it felt like a long, very stressful time for something that you feel it's really natural. So I never expected it to be a bit more complicated. I always just thought the baby would go on and latch on, and that would be it. But there's so much more to it than I ever thought.
Yeah. Well, I heard that he's still feeding now, so that's amazing.
Yeah.
Great.
Lovely, sweet.
Great. And how was the postnatal period for you personally?
It was fine. It was fine. I don't really know what to expect. Like, obviously I don't know what the postnatal was meant to be afterwards.
Yeah.
But it was just with the lockdown and kind of not having people around you, it was a very lonely few weeks, but there's nothing you could have done about it. But other than that, I think the medical side of things were really good. It was just the aspect of everyone living during the pandemic that made it a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, definitely. And do you feel that you've received a good, like, continuous care up until maybe not until now, but like continuously after you gave birth?
Yeah, I do actually. The midwives, when they come out and do their checks, they were I felt like that was the same as what it probably would have been. The only thing that's different, I think, is some of the calls now for health visits, especially there over the phone, do your assessments that way. But other than that, I do actually think they kept it as much as what they could have, like, as normal, as what they could have.
Yeah, definitely. And looking on birth now, if you think about birth, what do you feel about it now that you've actually gone through it?
I would definitely do it again. I don't really know, actually. I know I would definitely do it again, and it was an experience I'll never forget.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have an expectation in my head. I was at the start of the pregnancy. I was kind of excited, weirdly, to see how I'd actually cope during labour. So I feel like I'd maybe be a bit excited again if I was to get pregnant again.
Yeah.
Just because obviously everything was induced, so I didn't get to kind of, other than my waters breaking naturally, everything else was kind of forced on you.
Yeah.
But no, I don't really have a negative opinion of it. It was quite a good time-ish.
Great. Well, thank you so much for sharing everything and being so honest about everything.
That's fine, absolutely fine. Thank you for having us.
Oh.